We've all had those days where your child is asking you lots of questions, there's loads of stuff still to do in the house, work's been stressful all day, and then suddenly somebody knocks a drink over at 5:30 in the afternoon and you're shouting. Now, most advice obviously focuses on the reaction itself, trying to control that by walking away or taking breathing exercises, and that's helpful advice. But I think we're tackling the reaction too late. What I mean by that is I think there's a lot of chances to interrupt that before it gets to that point. Let's start by just looking at an average day. Get up in the morning, your kids don't want to go to school, you're stressing around trying to get them sorted out, you leave for work, work is just really stressful, the software's not working, or there's some delay somewhere and things aren't going properly, everyone's getting stressed, and the manager decides for some reason that you're the person that needs blaming for that. Your lunch break doesn't go as planned, you won't even get called back into work, and by the end of the day, it's 6:30, 5:30 in the afternoon, and you had no time to yourself, you're stressed to the nines, and then you're going home to deal with your kids all evening. The drive home is a nightmare, there's loads of traffic because you left work late. You finally get home to find your kids have been playing up, your partner is at the end of their rope, and you come in to try and solve their behaviour and sort your partner out and get other stuff done and do the rest of the evening routine with no plan and no capacity to deal with that much stress. But you start well, right? You come in, you get your kids to behave themselves a little bit more, maybe you're having a chat with them, maybe you take them outside to play for a little bit. Your partner gets a little bit of the rest that she needs, and then you get to tea time, and it's like, even though everything's calmer, potentially, than it might have been, you are at the end of your rope. Not like you're a little bit stressed, as in you physically can't cope with anything else. Then over dinner, your kids are arguing, or maybe they're asking you the same 5 questions on repeat, and you get to the point where you're like, okay, I've kind of had enough now. But rather than say that, you try and get through it. Because a lot of the advice out there tells you to model calm and behave in the way you want your kids to behave by making sure that you're available and open and all of this good stuff. And it's all good advice. But when you do that for long enough, eventually your kid will knock a drink over or someone will ask you one question too many and suddenly you're shouting. And a lot of the time we judge ourselves on the moment we shout. Why did that small thing create such a massive reaction in me? I believe personally myself that it's not the small thing that causes that reaction. It's the build-up of everything throughout the day that we either assume is just it's normal. The work stress is unavoidable. The kids playing up is unavoidable. Being asked multiple questions at home about dinosaurs is unavoidable. What I'm saying is, if we interrupt that further, earlier in the day, we have more of a chance of dealing with that moment at the end of the day better. Because the pressure that we feel, the stress that we feel throughout the day is a weird thing, because if it's stress at home, with the kids in the morning, before we leave for work, okay, we get in the car and we go to work. And that stress, we try and leave it there, right? We don't try and take it to work with us because then we're already at a deficit before we start. You go into work and work is a shamble of shit. And then before you know it, you're going home again. And you try and leave that there. But actually, under the surface, all that stress from this morning is still with you. The stress from work is still with you. You're then going home where there's stress again. Not because everything is stressful to you, but it's just the accumulated pressure of all of this, all the rest of your day, and we're now here, right? And the way I look at it is like an iceberg, right? If you look at an iceberg, the part above the water is the part everybody sees. So they see that you might not enjoy your job. They see that you've got kids. They see you've got a partner in a house and you're trying to move, or whatever it might be. All the stuff that goes on that other people know about is the top of the iceberg. Underneath the iceberg is where things get interesting. This is where we can come in and we can try and sort this out and try and deal with this earlier. The bottom half of the iceberg is the part that people don't see, right? The way that the stress you're dealing with and the stuff you're having to cope with every day, how it affects you, right? The things we don't talk about or things we don't say. Because if you get to the end of your day and your kids are finally in bed and you're like, I would fucking love nothing more than to not see those again for a couple of days. You can't say that out loud. But the pressure, the stress at the time is making you feel like that. If you finish work on a Friday and you're like, I might just resign, actually, I might just quit and not go back in on Monday. You don't say those things out loud, but we all think and feel them. We've all had times where we thought those things, and that's normal. But with the iceberg and the way that it works is that all that stuff under the surface, you're just simply not talking about and not Nobody has the capacity to take any of that off your plate because nobody else knows about it. This bit under the iceberg is where the problems are. This is where those reactions come from nothing. And I've seen a lot of the different reset stuff out there, whether it's 60 seconds or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. And a lot of that's really helpful and it can be really, really good. But a lot of it that I've found personally myself, I'm not saying this is like the universal rule online, but a lot of what I've seen is you're following this reset, this plan, right? This like 5-step kind of idea, right? Based on the person who decided that. But if that person's not living your exact life and doesn't know you and like doesn't have that familiarity with not just what you're dealing with, but the things you like, the things you don't like, you might try and follow a piece of advice, as I've done a couple of times, and actually just find you're not enjoying it or it's not really working for you because it doesn't vibe with the kind of person you are. The resets that I do now are slightly different to that. There's still 1 minute here, 2 minutes there, 5 minutes there, in the space time allows for. But there are things I actually fucking want to do. Let's go back to that day we were talking about a minute ago, right? If the kids are playing me up in the morning, there's nothing I can do about that. I can do my best to try and stay calm with them and help and do all the right things, but ultimately, I can't change their behaviour just like that. I would love to, I'm sure we all would, but that's not the way life works and we all know that. So then on the drive to work, rather than stewing in my own stress and dreading work, what I do instead, and what I've done before now, is I will take that time, that environment where it's just me in the car on the way to work, and I will use whatever time that is to have a reset. To me, what that normally looks like is heavy metal music, hard rock, and lots of shouting. Not necessarily the music, but also me as well. Like I will own that environment, and that becomes a one-man rock concert all the way to work. Not because people out there have suggested the one-man rock concert is good for the calm spirits, but it works for me. It's my personal reset based on the stuff I like in the time I have available. When you're at work, like if you are, say for instance, going to have to make a hot drink for everybody, just while the kettle's boiling, scroll on your phone for 5 minutes, if you find something funny, send it to your mate, whatever it might be. You're introducing these small little pockets of time where they're available into your day, so that by the time you get to here, all of the stress we were talking about earlier, all of that pressure, it's still there. But, and this is the important thing, but because you've been having resets in between, you haven't dealt with any of that necessarily. It's not like it's gone now. But you've built up something I call emotional space. Meaning that then when you get to here and the drink goes over, like we said, right? You've been asked loads of questions at tea and someone spills that drink. It's not, you don't fly into it immediately. What I found before I was doing these resets was the drink would get spilled and I would go. And I wouldn't even consciously decide to react. I would love to know in the comments if any of you resonate with this. The event would happen, the drink would get spilled, and I'd be flying in before I'd even decided to do it. Like the first time I heard what I was saying would be as it left my mouth, as it was being said. And at that point, obviously, it's too late then. But it was like I didn't get a vote. I didn't get to decide whether I was going to react or not. It was already happening. These small resets throughout the day, the ones that actually mean something to you, where it's something you like and you can do that in that time, that's what helps me now. So I encourage you, over the next couple of days or the next week or so, right, just don't look at where can I take my next reset and how can I do all this. Just write down a list of things, or like mentally make a note of like the things that you like that you can do for 5 minutes. Like if it's watching YouTube, say for instance you've got like a favorite creator on there, or maybe it's on Netflix and you've got a program you're watching, could you realistically watch 5 minutes of that and then turn it off again without being pissed off that you've only got to watch 5 minutes of it? Are there a couple of songs? Is there a playlist you have on Spotify that you could listen to a little bit of and turn it off again without being like jarred at the fact you don't get to listen to all of it? If you're like into reading, again, could you read a couple of pages and put it down? Whatever it is, whatever works for you best, pick a few of those ideas. You can pick one. You can pick one thing you like and one time in the day to start with. Doesn't even have to be every day. Just give it a try because it worked for me. And when I say it worked for me, I was the person who needed this advice. And because of this, I am now the person that's able to give back this advice. The younger me, guy from 10 years ago, desperately needed to hear this advice. I can't speak to him, but I can speak to you. Now, over the next few weeks, I think it's the next 5 weeks, we're doing a lot of these videos out there, targeting the pressure that we don't talk about, how we can try and offset that, and a few other bits and pieces as well about like why we react the way we do. It's going to be really good stuff. I think it's really going to be helpful, okay? So if that sounds good to you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get the notifications on. If there's any other comments you want to leave underneath the video, any questions you might have, I encourage you to do that. I will get back to you personally myself. I read all the comments and I will reply to them, okay? But now though, until the next one, if this video has helped you, it's done its job. That's all it needs to do. If you feel 1% better, that's better than you were when you started. And that for me is enough. Until the next video, my name is Daniel Mottram, and I can't wait to catch you in the next video.